Hello, my brothers and sisters. It's Josh Packard. Hey, I'm glad you're here. I really want to share with you today Matthew 23. And we're going to have a nice little laugh, and we're going to kind of see the things that dishonors God and compare it with today and see if you happen to notice it anywhere. I really want to extend the gospel to you first and foremost before you change the channel, that you were made a sinner because of Adam. Not because you chose it, not because you wanted it, not because you thought it'd be a good idea to be a sinner, but because you were born by the virtue of being born in the human race, because of Adam. In the same manner, it was necessary for you to be born again, and so Christ accomplished that on the cross when he took all of Adam with him into burial and then rose it up from the dead in resurrection. And then he ascended and took it to the right hand of God. So all of Adam has been glorified. Everything's been done, we just don't know it yet. You're not threatened with hell. You're not threatened with all these things to bring about your salvation. You first are saved that you would repent. Only those that are saved can even believe. Okay? Don't put that burden upon yourself to try to believe. Rather, just ask God, how do I surrender to you? And really importantly, those of you that are already believers and free, the message you extend to people is this: that they were sinners, that they're held underneath the dominion of sin, and they don't have to be because Christ has done this for them. That he's not requiring anything of them. He's trying to give them a gift to transform them. Okay? It's your message to people shouldn't be, if you believe in Jesus, you'll be saved. It should be, you know what, you're saved so that they will believe in Jesus. Okay? Now, from this point forward, we're going to talk about Matthew 23 today, and we're going to laugh a little bit, and we're gonna joke, and we're going to kind of see what irritates God. Because if you look at the scriptures, Jesus didn't have much harsh things to say to sinners. As a matter of fact, he was hanging out with them. As a matter of fact, he was called a glutton and a drunkard by the Pharisees because he did hang out with these wicked people. And I wonder why he did that. He says that the sick are the ones that have a need of a physician, and those that have no need of his physician, he didn't come for them. Kind of interesting. So let's just dive into Matthew 23, and we're going to laugh a little bit, but I want you to kind of just make parallels today between what you're hearing here, and look and think about around you and see if you see this anywhere else. And see if you see it alive and well today in our religious systems. Because I want you guys to know there is no such thing as a Christian, of what you're supposed to look like and what you're supposed to act like. Being Christ-like doesn't mean to be like a little Jesus running around, talking like Jesus, walking like Jesus, dressed like Jesus, having a beard like Jesus, whatever you think Jesus might have looked like. Because if you do that, because you've never seen him, what's happening is you've had to imagine what he would be like and then conform yourself to your imagination. So you're actually a hypocrite, and you're trying to present that to God, and then you're gonna see, just like Cain did, that God has no respect for that sacrifice. He has no respect for it at all. The likeness of Christ, rather, is the truth, a truth from a true heart, a heart that is no longer condemning you, a conscience that is clean from sin, one that has no more guilt or shame or fear, that has no more reason to pretend to be something else. See, Christ was the truth. He was the only one on this earth that was the truth, because sin did not have dominion over him. Okay? So he was able to be just whatever he was, because he didn't need to be anything else, because the accusation fell on deaf ears to him. To us, because of the dominion of sin, accusation makes us subject to it. Because I was thinking about this the other day, and the dominion of sin is like you're drowning. You're underwater. Okay, think about that. And you're underwater for your whole life, and you're just barely breathing. You just have enough breath just to live, right? And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to get to a place to where you can breathe. Well, so all of your effort and everything you're doing is all focused on getting to this place to where you can breathe, where you can finally rest. okay? And in the church and a religion and just because in general being a sinner, what happens is that this being underwater is you're being made conscious of being underwater. So you're always seeking just to get a breath. Well, that's how the dominion of sin works as a veil. It keeps you so occupied that you can't do what someone who is on dry land can do. So right now, you guys need to realize you're not drowning. You've been completely set on dry land and you are alive, okay? Now you need to do what belongs to those that live on the land, not those that are underwater, okay? And this is how we're gonna start it today. And to be in Christ's likeness is just the truth. It's just to be in God's image, and the image of God is the truth. Adam and Eve were created in the image of God, okay? Well, they were naked in each other's presence and they were unashamed. That's what it means to be in the image of God. But whenever they ate of the fruit, they covered themselves and hid. That is called hypocrisy. So you're conscious of sin underwater. So you're trying to cover yourself in order for you feel like you're actually above water. And that's just not the way it works. You're constantly going to be employed under just trying to get your mouth out of water. Okay? So today I want you to kind of realize that there's no such thing you're supposed to be. You can look in the mirror today and say, this must be just what a Christian ought to be. There's no other option you can have, because he that began the good work in you will finish it. You just need to see that. And I'm talking to believers right now, not to non-believers, okay? I just want you guys to know this. If you're a non-believer, you need to get out from underneath the dominion of sin. And that's literally simply by acknowledging what Christ has done for you on the cross. Done. It's easy. I mean, it seems like this big complicated thing, and religion has made this big mess out of it. And like it's like this big process of sanctification, and you got to do all this stuff. Well, all that does is that it's like pushing you back underwater. All these doctrines and denominations and all this other stuff. So you can't acknowledge that right now. You really need to just hear the word that Christ is alive. And if he's alive, you are alive with him. You belong in the kingdom of God. You have the full right to be here. All right. That being said, let's move to Matthew 23 and let's see what bothers Jesus. And let's see who he's attacking, because he's not talking about sinners right here. He's talking to those religious elite, the ones that are leading all the people. Shall we call them taskmasters, perhaps? For those of you that know about Pharaoh in Egypt, about how the Israelites were captured, it wasn't by a battle, it wasn't by threats, it wasn't by anything. All he did, Pharaoh was so smart, he just took of their brethren and lifted a few of them above their brethren, and then through these brethren increased their burdens. Kind of like today, we have a bunch of people that are been lifted out. It's as though they're more righteous than us, that they're more knowledgeable than us, that they're more right than us, and we somehow listen to them for some reason over our own common sense and our own ability to read the scriptures and our own prayers with God. Interesting. So let's take a look. Matthew 23, and let's start. Then spake Jesus to the multitude and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. All therefore whatsoever they bid you observe, that observe and do. But do not after their works, for they say, and they do not. Well, think about this today. We have pastors sitting in Jesus' stead, right? And if Jesus has defeated sin, death, hell, and Satan and all these other things, and these pastors are preaching this stuff from the pulpit, yet they themselves aren't free from sin, I don't know, it's just kind of weird to me. It kind of seems discongruous, if that's a word. So, for they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uppermost rooms and feasts and the chief seats in the synagogues, and greetings in the marketplace, and to be called of them, Rabbi, Rabbi. Right here, I want to talk about this phylacteries and the enlargement of the borders. Okay, in the Old Testament, it talks about how we should always have God's law on our forehead and on our hand, which means that his laws ought to always be on our mind, and our works must follow what they can't be different. You if you believe God and you're considering His laws, then your work should follow that. Anyway, we all know that. That's easy to see. But what they do just to be safe, because of religion, Pharisees means fence builder, by the way. But just to be safe, they put these boxes on their head and on their arm, which contain the law. Well, a normal Jew would do it while they're praying, and you can see it today in Israel. That they put it on, put one on their head and one on their wrist, and they do it when they're praying. But the Pharisees, man, they made a big box and a big one. So they enlarged theirs. They made them bigger and probably more ornate, I would imagine. And just so you were clear and see that they had made sure to have theirs. And then as a Jew, you'd always have to have a blue hem on the bottom of your garment so you could be identified with as a Jew. You wouldn't be hidden. Well, the Pharisees, what they would do is they would take and enlarge that big blue border all around the bottom, so you knew they were Jews. They were exceptional Jews. So, and they liked the greetings in the marketplace to be called men, rabbi, rabbi. They liked the chief seats. They liked I really used to believe that pastors wanted to come to the Lord merely for the purpose of serving the Lord. And you know what I mean? And that's not the truth. There's lots of benefits that come with being a pastor. I mean, a dorky pastor can get a pretty hot wife. You know what I mean? Because all women want to be, they want to be approved and seen as men as the pastor's wife. And you see, that they really like the position and office in society. I mean, they're very respected people. They're right up there with doctors, lawyers, even more so in most cases. So people pat them on the back, tell them how wonderful they are. I mean, you're getting quite an estate by becoming a pastor these days. You get a lot of benefits in the world because of that. And so you always got to question people's motives. Just because they have a piece of paper that says they're a pastor, that doesn't mean shit. I mean nothing. So, don't be too quick to put a pastor on a pedestal, because, more than likely, first of all, if they're putting their credential on a piece of paper, they're full of shit. And you really got to measure them out, because most pastors don't know shit. Really, they don't, about the truth. Most of them are still under the dominion of sin, teaching you to be under the dominion of sin. Okay? Now, they like to be, but be not called rabbi, for one is your master, even Christ, and all of you are brethren. It's very important. We are all on the same ground. I'm not more holy than you. You're not more holy than me. If you try to put your arm or your leg over me and try to put yourself as dominant over me, I'm going to laugh your ass off, because you have nothing over me and I have nothing over you. Okay? All things are yours, brethren. And call no man your father upon the earth, for one is your Father which is in heaven. Neither be called masters, for one is your master, even Christ. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. This is really cool, because humility before God is to acknowledge why he had to come. And the thing is so that I couldn't believe. I didn't have anything to offer. I was completely without strength. I was nothing. Still today, I'm nothing. That Christ, I needed him. I still need him daily. You have to be in this place to where you acknowledge God and his ways, and that's humility. So you're subscribing yourself to God in his image of righteousness, not your own. Because at your attempts at being humble according to your own estimation, you're actually holding yourself in open rebellion against God. Because you're saying that your humility is more humble than God's humility. You guys got to understand, humility is not what you think. Humility is saying that Christ needed to come because I couldn't believe. I couldn't get free. I was completely under the dominion of sin and lies. that I was evil and corrupt to my core, and Jesus came, knowing this. Consider the cross before he died. Consider the cost before he went to the cross, and he saved me, even though he shouldn't have. And then daily, I went back to serve Satan. I exalted my idea of righteousness over his. I did all these things as a believer. I still do. I don't see everything. I don't know all things. I guarantee you I'm falling short in ways that I can't even imagine yet. But it doesn't remove Christ's faithfulness from us. Okay? So all of your attempts at your own righteousness and conforming to the image of your own understanding of what you think a proper worshiper is, you're completely lifting yourself above God. And there's none that is escaping this, because we all do it. I don't care who you are. So if you're claiming and you're telling people right now that they got to believe to be saved, or they got to be faithful to God, what are you smoking? Nobody's even close to that. I mean, it's just your own words condemn you. It's just hilarious to me when I hear it. Okay. He says, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven against men. For you neither go in yourselves, neither do you allow them that are entering to go in." This is bad. And you're worried about whether people are drinking, or whether or not they're cussing, or whether or not they're fighting, or whatever it is you think isn't Christian. Well, I'm going to tell you today, right now, this is the worst thing you could possibly do. I can't imagine anything other than you're preventing God's children from coming back to them, coming back to him. Who in the world is doing this? Me, you, all of us. We have all put barriers between the entry to the kingdom of heaven. We have all told people they need to believe at some point. We've all told people that they need to do this and that and this and that in order to please God, or held the burden on ourselves. And by holding that burden on ourselves, we teach others to do the same thing. I mean, in every different way, this is us. Oh my God. Whew. So I openly did this. With all of my heart, I went and held people. I closed the kingdom of heaven. Even though I was already in, I unknowingly closed the door to those behind me. What do you think I deserve because of that? As a Christian, do you really think I deserve anything? Man. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you devour widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayer. Therefore you shall receive the greater damnation. And I really see this as like, this push for money in the church. I've seen churches where the pastor's driving a Mercedes, big gold rings and everything else, and all of his congregants are all just poor, but he's got them convinced, and they just give all they can give, and they don't have anything. They're all going into debt, and they're all falling short, and they're just giving to this man, and it just irks me. I mean, irks me. Why? Anyway, don't get me going, because this happens all the time. And it really irritates me. And you think that God's going to be proud of you for this? Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you compass sea and land to make one student, and when he is made, you make him twofold more the child of hell than yourselves. Ooh. It's pretty rough right there, isn't it? But what he's saying is, who's he talking to? These are like the most respected people in their society. These are like the most respected pastors they have. Everyone would worship the ground these people walk on and hail them, Rabbi, Rabbi. And Jesus is all, nope. You guys, you're the source of all evil in this world. It's crazy. Woe unto you, blind guides, which say, whoever shall swear by the temple, it is nothing, but whoso swear by the gold of the temple, he is a debtor. And this is also, this whole section is just backwards about where people put their value. Where God values one thing, so the things that God has instituted, such as when he slaughtered the first lamb instead of Adam and Eve. And, we start going down the whole list and line. So God has established this temple, this, so you can kind of see a picture. Well, what happens is they twist it and they make the sacrifices more important than what the temple is. And it's like, what? Anyway, Christ is the temple. We are the body is the temple. We are the temple. Okay. Those, anyway, this is what God's after, not a building. Okay. So let's jump down to 23. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These you ought to have done, and not to have left the others undone. You blind guides, which strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. And this one's a funny one to me. It always makes me laugh, because I see this consistently, where I hear all these Christian ideals of what a good Christian is. And they turn their nose up at people that drink beer, or people that go to bars, or they turn their nose up at all these other people. And you're sitting there going, what? I don't get it. Why are you, so people aren't welcome in your church because they don't, blah, 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 fill in the blank. Well, then on the other side, they'll completely allow a teacher that is not even a believer. They'll allow women to preach in the church. They'll do all this stuff that clearly the scriptures forbid. They'll turn their nose up other things, but then not even see themselves. It's just weird to me. You blind Pharisee. Oh, let's go. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you make clean the outside of the cup and of the platter, but within they are full of extortion and excess. This extortion thing is a big deal. And again, I hate to talk about this, but we got to see that it's a lie. And many times, in order to get money, they really have to twist the scriptures. They really have to say and kind of make you feel like you're not good if you're not giving, and they make you feel like you're not adequate if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing in the church, according to their standards and according to their estimations, which I don't know where they find it. There's just lots going on, and extortion in the big way is the fact that if you don't believe, you're going to go to hell. So what they're doing is they're threatening you in order to get from you, and that's not right. It's really not. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you like unto whited sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful outwardly, but within are full of dead men's bones and all of uncleanness. Even so, you also outwardly appear righteous unto men, but within you are full of hypocrisy and iniquity. And it goes on for quite a bit further, but this is really the message for today, is don't ever just blindly trust somebody that comes in the name of pastor or deacon or bishop or whatever. Don't blindly trust anyone, ever. Especially if they're trying to put their arm over you and try to put themselves as dominant over you. It's like, shut up. Who are you? I don't bow to any man, ever. Christ alone is our King. All right, you guys. I just want to kind of have more of a little hilarious look at it today, and to kind of point out the things that bother Christ. And you're not one of those. I mean, honestly, we all tend to be. We all are falling short, but this isn't where God is holding against us. It's when we try to appear as though we're righteous. Because in the first step of doing that is we first have to listen to the accuser that says we are not righteous. We have to agree with him. Then what we have to do is ascribe some sort of idea of what we think a proper worshiper must look like. Then we have to employ our effort by shame, guilt, and fear in order to, which is the works of the flesh, in order to conform to that image of good, the good worshiper we think we're supposed to be. And then we try to present that to God. That's false. God will have no respect for that sacrifice. And you will not have fellowship with him. And in your conscience, you will not be pleasing to him, because you can't. Because you're at enmity with God as long as you're exalting your own images. Because you have acknowledged Satan. Okay? I don't know how other simply to put it. There's no other simple way. And try to tear that argument down. You won't be able to. So anyway, folks, have a great and wonderful day. Be free. Breathe that free air, standing on that dry ground. No longer drowning. All right, you guys, love you. Have a great day. Bye.